7 p.m. June the 19th, we'll call to order the regular meeting of the Economic Development Corporation. Any citizens to be heard?
No, Mr. President.
Okay, the next thing on the agenda is the consent agenda. Approval of the minutes of the last meeting, approval of the EDC fiscal year ending 2019 revenue, expenditure, balance sheet, and commerce reports dated June 14th. Item 5 is approval of the EDC quarterly investment report dated March 31. And item 6, pursuant to section 4.1 of the City of Helotes Economic Development Corporation, EDC amended bylaws, approval of the EDC 2019 strategic work plan modified and approved by the City Council on May 23rd. That, I don't know if you had a chance to look at the work plan. I think we have it on the agenda too, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
As an individual item?
No, yeah.
I just have it under here as consent, but you can pull it if
Okay,
you want to talk
if
about it.
anybody has any questions on the modifications of that, we can open that for discussion before we take the vote. Basically, all we did was remove item 1. The city council had a problem with the wording of us promoting development with incentives. I don't know all the detail on it. I don't know that it's worth trying to get into. Basically, it's the exact plan we did with item 1 removed, and the language changed just a little bit. If you, no, that was it right there. I saw it somewhere.
You saw it scroll by?
It's probably, it's under what, item 4?
It's under item number 6.
6.
Yep, there it is.
You'll notice on the first page that, where you go to page 4, it shows the changes that were made. Basically, goal 1 was removed.
Ink draft.
Priority 1, priority 2. We start with goal 1 as development of industry targets rather than, it is the same title, but we took out the language talking about incentives and some other things. If you look at goal 1, that is the redefined goal 1, and goal 2, the rest of the plan is exactly as we passed it on to council. They have approved it, and it was a fairly lengthy process, so I don't see any problems with it.
That's very good. Give us a cut sheet.
Any questions? If there's not any questions, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I so move.
Moved by Stevie,
Second.
seconded by Alan. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously. Item 7 is discussion and action on the Old Town Helotes pedestrian bridge project and appropriating capital monies for manufacture of the bridge and generally the construction of bridge abutments, bridge installation, and sidewalk connectivity. Could I have a motion to discuss, please?
Motion to discuss.
Moved by Alan,
Second.
seconded by Bill. I'm going to turn this over to staff to go through it. Well, we had a 2.5, 3-year-old contract, so there have been some changes on it because we didn't have a provision in there where the contractor was supposed to honor the contract for 3 years before he awarded it.
Okay, thank you, President. So I pretty well laid it out in the agenda item request form, but essentially we're seeking an additional $22,173. I believe that would be the last time that I come back to y'all asking for additional money, and that money is essentially broken out between the LV engineering construction oversight, which we weren't able to go and figure out what the construction oversight or the Robert Kistner inspection and testing services would be until after we were able to work through some of the issues with the contractor and determine what exactly the city did or did not want to inspect or to test. Basically, we're inspecting the rebar that's within the concrete, and we are testing the concrete that's being poured into the hole and into the abutment to make sure that it can withstand the PSI requirements of the construction documents. So the L&V Engineering Construction Oversight is relatively nominal. It's $2,000 additional. The Sherwood potholing that was completed, we originally estimated at $16,000, but they did additional testing on all 4 holes, so it went up to $20,000 for that potholing. There were utility conflicts in the way on the 2 piers that are furthest away from the vehicular bridge, and so there was additional work that they needed to do, and there was also additional design work that L&V had to do in order to accommodate the fiber optic. It's basically a fiber optic duct bank is what was in the way, and it was an AT&T fiber optic line. And lastly was the additional cost of the inspection and testing services through Robert Kistner, which is $15,736. The $15,736 is an amount not to exceed, so it may come in less than that, but I won't know until the project is completed. So tonight, we're asking for an additional $22,173 in funding to be transferred from the operating account into the capital account to fund this project. You can see I also included pictures of the progress that has occurred to date. As of right now, the abutments are completed, and so we are waiting till the end of July for the pedestrian bridge to be delivered to the Old Town area. They'll then it's going to be delivered in 2 parts. It'll be bolted together, and then they'll have 2 cranes that actually set it in place on the abutments. As we told you originally, in between the time of the abutment completion and we're waiting for the bridge to be delivered, we're going to have a meeting sometime next week to figure out how we're going to connect in the most cost-effective manner possible the existing 6-foot sidewalks that are out there to the bridge itself. There will be some handrails that are required because there are some elevation issues, and there will be some shoring and retaining walls that are required simply because of the drop-off as you approach the bridge itself.
Rick, can I ask you the $15,000 to reiterate what that is for? The 15 of the 20.
The $15,736 through Robert Kistner is for their on-site pretty much every day, making sure that the contractor is complying with the construction documents. They're also ensuring, obviously they're not out there right now because nothing's going on, but while they were doing the abutments, they were making sure that the rebar was to specifications, that it was tied correctly, all of those sorts of things. And they would, and when they were pouring the concrete, they would make sure not only the concrete was spec'd appropriately, but they would actually take cylinders and they would break those cylinders to make sure the PSI was correct. And they did that for every truck that came out to deliver concrete into the area. We are also receiving the inspection reports and the test reports. They're being delivered here so that we can keep them on file in case there's any issues in the future. So in a nutshell, that's essentially what they're doing.
Okay. Have you seen the test results yet, or they're still to come?
I've seen the test results. The concrete testing, they have a 7-day period and a 28-day period. The 7-day is already at 100, the concrete is already at over 100%. So we either delivered PSI, concrete that has a PSI of what was spec'd or higher, because it normally takes, I think, longer than 7 days to reach its full maximum cure rate. So all the testing that has come back and the inspections that have come back from both Robert Kistner and from L&V Engineering have been fine. There haven't been any issues.
You don't remember what the brakes were on the cylinders?
Over 100?
What the
100%, the brakes on the cylinders, what weight, what power?
I have those reports, or I would have to. You're over my head now.
Okay, you can just
They,
call them
yeah.
something.
the
But I can-
PSIs.
I will.
Okay,
But I can provide the reports to the, body. I'll just scan
I'd
them
like
and
to
send
see
them
the
to all of you.
PSIs myself. I did have a concern on the pier that was on the southwest, the one closest, the southwest pier. And by the way, I've been out there almost every day looking at it, but they were having difficulty at about 24 feet. Was that in the report?
They were
hit
having.
rock?
Yeah, they hit rock.
Okay.
But they were able to go down the full, I think they went down 26 feet, actually, for those piers. They were able to break through it and go through.
Okay. They were having difficulty doing that. There was some concern by the crew that the rocks was too large or.
Yeah, the drill crew, they were able to get through it, and they bottomed out where they needed to bottom out.
Good.
Question, Stevie?
No,
Patrick? Kathy?
I'm good.
Bill?
As I said, this is the last time I expect to, I'm not gonna say it's 100%, but the last time I'm expecting to come to y'all with additional monies request. I think that we have enough in the contingency to go ahead and handle the handrails and the sidewalks and all of that. So hopefully, the next time we talk about this project, we'll actually be doing a ribbon cutting or something along those lines, so.
Okay, in that case, I'd entertain a motion to transfer $22,173 from the general operating fund to the city EDC capital fund for additional costs incurred on the Old Town Helotes pedestrian bridge project. Motion?
I motion.
I'll second.
Okay, moved by Patrick, seconded by Kathy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed unanimously. Item 8 is discussion and action on an FYE 2019 budget amendment, transferring funds from the EDC operating fund to the, I guess that's what we just did.
Yeah, I was gonna say. wait a
We
minute.
skipped to 9 real
We
quick, or to 8.
skipped 8. Well, we did 8, exactly.
One's right.
Okay, item 9 is discussion and action on design and installation of gateway monument signage on State Highway 16, Hasman Road, and/or 1560, including but not limited to authorizing the executive director to obtain city approval of design and locations and coordinate with TxDOT on final locations. Could we have a motion to discuss, please?
Motion to discuss?
I'll second.
Motion by Patrick, seconded by Kathy. Take off.
Okay, so we have been working with our purchasing department to solicit proposals on design for the gateway monument signage that we're talking about. We sought proposals from 6 contractors. Only one responded, and that was Keller Custom Signs. They did the LED monument sign that's in front of City Hall for us. They did provide 3 designs at no cost, and also the construction and installation costs for those as well. One of the things that we did tell Keller Custom Signs is we wanted to make sure that the signs that were proposed complied with the city code of ordinances, and these 3 do comply with the code of ordinances. And so we're here seeking information from y'all, guidance, see what y'all thought about their initial designs.
You ever seen a Yellowstone
Okay. Okay.
monument?
Basically, the first set of signs you're looking at are the ones that the sign company drew up and submitted to Rick. The last page of the pictures, or last 2 pages here, are pictures of various signs that other cities have.
Where's this? Where's that located?
It's on, I don't,
In this item?
Towards the last page.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
keep going.
Gotcha. Thank you.
We need to decide on what sign design we want. The prices that Rick has in here are for the first sign here. They're basically $10,000 a piece.
Yeah.
For the red City of Helotes with the logo and Helotes on the bottom of it, and these are I don't
Yeah,
know, is that it? Do we want to do that size sign or larger? Or I guess that's well within the
So,
ordinance.
so sign A is 8 foot tall, including the base, and it's about 4.5 feet wide, with the logo portion. So if you look down here, it says DWG, it says 10661A. There's an A, B, and C, and each one is slightly different. Number A is basically a rock, letter A is a rock base, an 18-inch rock base, with a stucco box essentially on top of it. The difference between, on A, however, is their aluminum letters that are stuck out from the face of the sign, and the Helotes is actually stuck to the monument sign. If you look on the side profile, you can see how it's actually designed. If you go to B, you'll notice that it's simply flat, so they're putting the city of Helotes in plexiglass essentially, and they're attaching it to the stucco box, so there is no 3D effect really there. And sign C is essentially a combination, similar combination between A and B. You have the city of and the windmill on a plexiglass frame that is stuck to the stucco, but you do have the Helotes that sits on top of the monument sign, but is detached from the face of the sign. All of them, I believe, are between $9,000 and $10,000, and that, well, actually, the second one is $7,200, but that's just the plexiglass one. The other ones are between $9,000 and $10,000. So those are the differences between the three renditions. I'm not suggesting that we should go with these three. I personally, I know Glenn doesn't like them. I personally like A. I like A, but I also, from a cost standpoint, like the cost associated with those two. I'm not quite sure that we're gonna be able to afford New Braunfels since that's a huge sign.
That
So,
new Braunfels sign that costs $50,000.
I'm sure.
sure, it's expensive. The city of Jersey Villages look quite expensive as well.
Where's this sign gonna be located? Have we, have that? Highway Department said, or we don't know?
It would be located on Bandera Road, somewhere near the corporate city limits towards Loop 1604.
On which, that side coming in?
South side, yeah.
On
It
the
would be on the
East side.
the entrance side, whatever, going north on
North on
Bandera.
16, this
Right,
side
right,
of 1604.
I doubt that TxDOT would allow us to put it in the median. We can, if the
Only if
city,
you went with a tower, maybe.
if the city would prefer to proceed with something like that in the median, we can ask, but they've been hesitant to allow anything in the median in the past.
It's not double faced, it's just faced one side, right?
It would just be faced one side, yes, sir.
Okay,
Talking about a sign that's the same size as me?
you're not quite 8 feet wide and 6 feet tall. You may think you
8 by
are.
4, I don't know.
So it's 6 feet tall, it's actually shorter than me, right?
No, that's the third option. The
It's
first one's
8 feet tall.
8 feet, okay. Still,
Okay, let's go one at a time. Go ahead, Patrick.
my concern is just the size of it and the cost, that's all.
David?
Well, I'm concerned about the overlay letters in A and C. I can see a good
Vandalism.
hailstorm. I can see us having to replace them for
Well, if we
various
go with B, they got a plexiglass thing, we'll be replacing that a lot more often. With somebody throwing rocks at it or shooting at it.
Well, now, I
Who?
have to admit, construction is not my forte.
Ma'am, would you put the microphone closer?
Oh, sure.
Bert's having a hard.
I'm a short person. No, it's just that my concern on A and C is the overlays that are there. I can see them being broken for various instances.
What are they constructed out of?
Aluminum.
Oh, they're metal.
They
They'll
are?
be metal and attached to the base, right in front of the sign.
Yeah, they're,
If you look at
the ones that are
look at
on A,
picture. when you look at the side drawing of it, that's the metal Helotes in blue right there bolted to the front of
It's
it.
aluminum primed and
And
painted
it's-
white, so I mean, I know it's reverse channel aluminum non-lit letter. So all of everything that you're seeing that's in blue, white, red, that's actually aluminum, that they're then essentially, I don't know what the term is either, but they're essentially putting a rod in between the base of the sign and the sign material itself, the aluminum itself. So you have a space there, but, I mean, your point's well taken. I mean, people could remove the letters or attempt to remove the letters, yes.
And a good hailstorm could damage them.
Hailstorm won't hurt that aluminum.
The one thing I was concerned about is
Not
not
like
sitting on there and then crapping.
Steel plate bolted to it. Yeah, that could be, the vandalism would be more of a
Yeah.
concern on it more than anything else.
I know this one up here.
I also am concerned about the price. I am.
Is it lit in any way?
It would not be lit.
No power to it at all?
No.
Patrick, you were concerned about the price?
Just the size of it, that's all.
When you say that you're concerned about price, you mean it's
I
too
didn't say
high?
price.
No,
I
no,
said
I was,
size.
Stevie said.
it's too high or too low? Obviously, so you think it's too high?
I think it's too high for the size of I'm more concerned about the size of the signage.
No, I'm sorry, I'm actually asking Mrs. Seitz. So are you concerned about the price point being too high or too low?
Well, now, B, I think, is in line with a good sign.
Okay.
But A and C, I'm concerned, particularly if in the future we plan to do more.
And then to Mr. Adams, this sign is, they're limited by the height to 8 feet because, well, they're not limited, but we're trying to comply with the code so the rest of the city, the concern was the rest of the businesses in the city would say the city is doing whatever it wants, but we're heavily regulating signage throughout the rest of the city. So that's kind of where the 8 foot comes from. The sign code, I'll look up the sign code, I think,
64 square feet.
is it 64? So the sign code is 64 square feet. So this is approximately 8 by, let's say, 5, so that's 40 square feet. So they could make something like this a little bit larger, but it would be wider rather than tall.
Rather than taller.
Well, I was just looking at the New Braunfels one, that's why, and I saw how wide that was. It's just, and how much was that one?
Oh, we don't know.
I imagine
don't
the New
know.
Braunfels one is also on 35.
Oh.
It is.
Kathy?
It's also on Highway 35.
They got text out approval.
like any of the
no matter
That'd be a
designs.
problem.
Okay, Kathy doesn't like any of it.
I don't like any of them. I want it to be more primitive looking. Sorry.
Well, you wanna
Kind of
take-
like the Yellowstone thing, where it's
You wanna
primitive
put- You want to
looking.
put a picture of Tom up there?
Well, that'd be okay. That would be okay. I mean,
No,
come on.
this is open
I mean,
to
I'm
our
thinking of
discussion and
more
input.
rustic, because we are kind of more rustic
Mm-hmm.
looking here in Helotes. We want to kind of keep that feel, don't we? We kind of, I mean, I was told I live in the country the other day, and I went, what? I'm downtown Helotes. That's not country.
Might change the stone characteristics to get it a little bit more rustic. On, I guess, it's 2, is that the lotus, is it relieved? Is it like a 3-inch deep, 2-inch deep, or is it painted on number 2?
It's vinyl.
Vinyl? I was reading that, it says just aluminum, the lotus letters mounted.
It's a white plexi
rock
face,
base.
so it's plexiglass or some form of plexi.
B is different.
Which, this one goes with this one? This one goes with this one.
It says 3M vinyl.
I'm talking about B then.
The graphics on it are 3M, but the white area is plexi face.
Okay.
So
Because
it's,
I was wondering where they're getting the $2,000 difference. It's all in the construction of the Lotus.
So,
I like
B, B, to answer your question, is it's some sort of plexi material, plexiglass.
Right.
That's white, and then the red, blue, and all the letters and everything are 3M vinyl that's then applied to the white, that white plexi.
I see where the difference, $2,000 difference comes.
What do they estimate the lifespan of that before you have to replace a vinyl?
It's about 7 years, but
7?
it all depends
Yeah.
on weather.
Probably 4 or 5 years.
And it's usually warranty too. So I know we've had the issue on a couple of signs in Old Town where we re-vinyled some of the oval ones, they start to peel. Called the contractor, he came and repaired them, no charge.
Okay. Well, this is,
I would prefer, if had to vote for one of the three, I'd vote for A or one, with the possibility of changing the rock style to make it a little older or something.
yeah, instead of using cut stone,
Cut stone, you make
natural stone or something.
natural.
Here's what I found.
Siri's
I
trying
swore
to
I
get
had
into
that
it.
turned on.
Fine cut stone.
She's not on the board.
I swore I had that on.
He's not on board. I don't particularly have a problem. I would prefer A out of the signs, but I would like to, we're under $10,000, and these things can easily run into lots of money if you get this. What did we pay for the big ones on Old Town?
24,000 for the big one, and it was about 15 for the small ones.
Yeah, 15 and 24,000 for the Old Town Rock entrances with the signs. I would rather, you're talking about a 3-foot, 3.5-inch wide sign, and if you set it back past the edge of the right-of-way, you're not even gonna see it. It's gonna look like a postage.
True,
That's my concern, is the size of it. Do you even see it? Where's it positioned?
okay.
Why put
I
the money
would-
towards something that you're
I
not
would
gonna see?
rather have it expanded to where it was the 8 feet high and took up the rest of the 64 inches, where it was maybe 8 feet by 6 feet or something. Or it'd be 8 feet by 5 feet. Would
That'd
be
be better.
probably 5 1/8. No? Well,
It
you're
would be
8
8 by,
by,
it would be 8 by 8.
8 by 8? Yeah, and we can't go over 8 feet high?
You can do whatever, the city can do whatever it wants to with regard to the signage. I'm not saying that they can't. I was just saying the direction that I received was that we wanted to try to keep it within the code of ordinances as much as possible. So, again, that's where we're coming up with the 8-foot tall.
Yeah, if you went 8 by 8, you'd have to come up with a different design that wouldn't fit that type of space.
Okay?
Another-
Maybe add something to it.
Got another question.
Go ahead.
Is there any city power out there that it could be lit, illuminated?
There's no city power out there right now. I mean, you're referring to CPS. Yeah, there's gonna be CPS electrical in that area.
Could put a meter out there and.
Yeah, we could put a pole and put a meter and do that, and that can come later in the process. It doesn't need to be lit up immediately. I think,
Put one of the new LED lights in there with a frame deal right on it. It would really pop that baby out of there, especially if it's not going into center media.
yeah,
Now, if it's in center media, people are gonna see it. Over on the side, it depends on what other kind of construction's gonna go around it.
yeah, and there's also the option of doing,
Way.
there's also the option of doing solar, but the solar that you typically see along highways that has like the flashing beacons, but different, it would be uplit.
You could put
But I'm
a-
saying it's not the solar that you use at your house.
Right, I know.
Okay?
You could put a commercial solar panel behind the sign and have a couple of spots on the sign.
That'd be
that
nice.
Yep.
can Function
I like
fine
solar.
for what we want.
Yeah. And personally, I think that we could handle the lighting of this in-house or using an electrical contractor, rather than having Keller get involved in lighting up the sign.
But the logo goes along with the other city website and the city advertisements and everything else, the windmill and the city of, so I think that's fine.
Okay?
My turn.
You got another comment, Alan?
I've got several comments. If you listen to all of them, we're going to be here a while. I see that we only got one bidder out of 6, and I'm concerned as to, did the others give reasons? Did the other 5 say, I don't want to bid because?
They apparently they just no bid the item. So they either responded back no bid or they didn't respond at all.
All right, that left us with one option, this particular sign, and I just don't think we're looking at enough here to make a decision as to, you know, I'd like to see 5 different plans, other people's ideas of different types of signs, and we don't have that. Do we have the option of asking other signage companies that they don't have to be in San Antonio, you know, somebody from Houston or Dallas or Austin, other signage companies that would be willing to submit bids?
Yes, is the issue that you're bringing up the bid price, or is
No,
the
no.
issue you're bringing up the design itself?
The
Because
design.
Because Keller Custom Signs is a large contractor in the city of San Antonio and does quite a bit of work for commercial buildings. They're willing to do as many different designs for free, whereas I think other sign companies would not necessarily be willing to do that for free, given the fact, and I told them up front, I said, look, we're going before an economic development corporation, I'm gonna have to go before the P&Z, and I'm gonna have to go before city council. So you're talking about, at a minimum, 21 different bodies that are gonna have different opinions. So this is not gonna be a short process. So the fact they do that going up front, and they're willing to work with us on that. So if the concern is the design, we can come up with an unlimited number of designs working with Keller. We're still gonna have to bid this out after the design is firmed up.
Okay. Well, I would like to see more designs than this one particular design, which frankly I don't like. I agree with Glenn. I don't like the sign at all for a number of different reasons. The different materials, you know, we've discussed them, the aluminum, the signage, the color, and all the other things. I can't visualize in my mind all of those. You know, I realize we got a piece of paper here to look at, but, you know, the type of vinyl, the aluminum we're talking about, the stucco, you know, matter of fact, it says painted stucco. I don't know why stucco would be painted. It's very easy to put color into stucco without having to paint stucco, which later becomes an issue with the paint fades or, you know, it's not there anymore. I don't know why they would quote painted stucco. That one really doesn't sound right to me. I don't know what PMS, well, I know what PMS is, but PMS red, what is it, background?
Where you are.
That is the red,
In a hole.
Red
that's
color.
the specification for that particular red color.
Right.
Okay, and I guess I understand the 3M purple trim. The FCO aluminum painted white, I'm not sure what that is. I don't know what FCO is. That's the term
I
I'm
think
not
it stands for fully cut out.
fully cut out, okay. And then we talk about white plexiface. I know what plexi signs are. I put a bunch, but I don't know what thickness we're talking about. In other words, there's a lot of variables here that I can't visualize in my mind. I would like for a representative of Keller to make a presentation of the different materials.
We almost need to get to the point of making a decision on what we want, and then we can look at the different options to build it. This was not a bid, this was just
I understand.
Glenn,
This is a starting
requested
point.
I
to get
understand.
some
So,
things to look at.
and actually, I would be interested in knowing, you said that you didn't like the sign for a variety of reasons. I would like to know why that is, so that I can tell these guys and they can incorporate that into their design.
Sure. Let's go just look at sign A. And you're driving past this sign, and I guess we're stuck with this reddish purple color. Is that,
That's if you go with the city logo. I mean, they latched on obviously to the city logo and started making a sign out of it. I mean, I don't think that's a requirement by any means.
Before we get into the different types of signs, where can we put the sign? Because that's probably gonna limit us as far as size and what we could do.
Well, the sign is gonna be on the side of the right of way, so I think.
That's 100%?
Yeah, that's 100%.
We don't have any other options?
Seriously doubt it.
Okay.
It's gonna be on the right, it's gonna be on the right-hand side as you're traveling north, and it's gonna be on the right-hand side as you're traveling south, if y'all decide to do two.
Just at the city limit sign.
It would
on
be,
Bandera.
yeah, it's gonna be at the city limits locations.
Okay.
Or you can put it further in if you want to, like the city limits technically north is out by Shadow Canyon, so you could put it closer in. But it's gonna be in TxDOT right-of-way, which is on the side of the highway. And we're gonna be, after the design occurs, that's when I'm thinking we pick the location that's most appropriate for this design that you've chosen.
So
And then make that application to TxDOT.
8 feet high is our objective, or our goal is to keep it 8 feet high, and then as far as width goes, we have flexibility.
Hey,
Again, the commission, this body, the P and Z, and the city council has unlimited discretion as to what they want to propose to TxDOT.
Yep.
My initial starting point was try to keep it within the code of ordinances for a single business monument type sign. If you want to throw those out the window, we can certainly do that. A multi-tenant sign, instead of being 8 foot tall, is 15 foot tall on Bandera Road. And the square footage, I think, is 145 square feet rather than 64.
I have another concern on colors. If you just take, for example, sign A, and you imagine yourself driving north on 16, and you glance over at this sign, there is not enough contrast between the reddish color and the black letters to even read what name of the town is. In my opinion, you're driving by, you look over, and boy, I tell you, it's difficult for me to read Helotes written on that signage with the background as it is. To me, there's not enough contrast to read what the name of the city is.
I think we have the option too, if we wanted to use the city logo, we can change the colors on the logo if we want to, as long as we maintain the sign.
Yeah, we actually have a variety of
Yeah.
renditions of the logo.
We can change the colors.
Okay. And then I think Stevie was the one that mentioned this on A. We've got the Helotes letters mounted on the stone. I'm concerned, a kid coming along and say, look, here, Johnny, if you twang the top of H, it sounds like this, and twang the L, and it sounds different. And I'm concerned about vandalism on this sign. I really am. You put that much of that sign above the stone, I can even picture kids at night, watch me bend this H over, how far I can bend it over. So I'm concerned about that particular sign, mainly because of the Helotes portion of the sign. I have other concerns. I don't think the price is bad. I'm really okay with the price. But I just have too many concerns about not having enough options to look at, and frankly, the design of the sign. I'd like to see other options. If only by Keller, that's fine, but I'd also like to see some other companies bid on it. How we get those bids, I can't tell you right now, but I'm concerned that 5 contractors did not want to bid it, and I don't know why that would be. If I was in business, in the sign business, I'd have my price out there. So it makes me concerned as to why 5 contractors said no. They may have all the business that they need, and they consider this some light, small work, and they don't want to do small work. I don't really know why they wouldn't, but I'd like to see more options.
Okay.
And again, like Glenn, I don't like it.
Well, do we want to try to go through the process of everybody coming up with a design to submit, or?
No,
Okay,
but maybe
Keller and
Keller
ask him for
and anyone else could come up with other designs.
yeah, I just think Helotes needs to be the major focus here, not a windmill, not, just Helotes. Welcome to Helotes, like Bernie, when I was looking right now. That name is what's there. That needs to be the focal point.
You could also get the sign up high enough that the bottom base is above, say, 7 feet, and eliminate the vandalism.
That's right.
I mean, that way you can see them all. You don't want to put it on poles, that looks cheap, but you could get the base up high enough.
Stevie, you got any more
There
comments?
you go.
But anyway,
No, I
I'd just
just
say
would
more.
like to see more.
Patrick?
I'm good.
Okay, how about we have, Rick get them, if anybody's got any ideas on something, give it to Rick. and he can get back with the sign company and see if we can come up with some other designs.
Yeah, I'm gonna give them all these comments. I'd like to go over these comments real quick, make sure I got everything if I can.
Yeah, and the one thing I would like to see is when we design the sign, we can have at least a 6x8 sign so you have more visibility instead of a 3.5-foot wide sign. Because that's not that, if you're sitting over on the edge of the right of way, if we have to go past the edge of the right of way on private property, it's gonna be pretty far over anyway.
How much width do we have? How big is the property that we can put this on?
Well, we don't
You can-
have a place yet.
Well, you can put it within TxDOT right of way, and TxDOT right of way varies, but it's certainly way more than 4 feet, 8 foot. There's a considerable amount of right of way on both sides.
Okay.
Yeah, we could have a bigger sign by their standards.
Or wider, I'm concerned about not so much height, I'm thinking wider, but that's my personal opinion.
Okay, so,
Lotus down the side.
that's perfect, I like that.
Your list is growing.
I like
Give
that.
Pass that over to.
Has there been any consideration about two signs, one coming in and one
Yeah,
from
we're
both
talking
sides of the
about
city?
that.
yeah, we can request as many locations as we want.
10,000.
In the past, this board has said they didn't want to deal with Hausman and 1560, but rather just Bandera Road, for sure coming into Helotes, possibly coming
South and
in.
north.
Yeah.
Good, okay.
Okay, so just to reiterate these comments, and these are in no particular order, because they're all over the place. So instead of the cut stone, possibly look at natural stone. The height generally is fine, but the width of it needs to be wider, possibly going up to the 64 square feet. It needs maybe more stone, primitive, rustic. No to the Helotes above the monument base, because the concern there is vandalism. Helotes needs to be the major part of the sign, not the windmill portion of it. I wrote down need at least 5 different options. That's to address Mr. Holmes' concern. The other concern was the contrast between the red background and the blue or black lettering, particularly if it's not all part of the same face of the sign, but separated. If they're going to use stucco, that they use the stucco that has the paint or the color integrated into the stucco. And somebody asked, what is the life of the signage, I think with regard to the vinyl. So we'll make sure that we get, for sure, clear that up. And last thing is, generally, everybody was okay with the $9,000 to $10,000 price range. Mrs. Seitz would prefer to keep it around $7,200 in that ballpark. Are those all the comments?
Be aware that if you go to 8x8, the price is gonna go up.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Not double, but, okay, Mr. Byers would like to make a comment?
I'm sorry, I'm thinking about Leon Valley. Their signage is in the middle of the highway. It's in, you know what I'm saying? And then, I don't know why we couldn't do the same thing.
That was a part of an agreement that Leon Valley paid for the cost of some of the construction or the travel, some of the cost of the street construction. And so TxDOT, because of that, allowed them to put the sign in the median.
We're not eligible for that.
I'm just saying that the reason that occurred, I'm correct in that, is that Leon Valley paid for the street work.
That turn lane, Leon Valley Public Works put that in.
So Leon Valley put a considerable amount of money into a TxDOT project, and so they allowed them to put it in the median. I'm not saying that we can't ask for it. I'm just saying that there's probably going to be some pushback there.
They've been conducive to helping us out with all kinds of things. I think, I'm sorry I raised my hand.
Sure ask.
That's not,
Yeah, we tried.
I think it'd be a good thing to ask, maybe if we could put it in,
Yeah.
like Leon Valley has, at the beginning of their city limits
Right.
on State Highway 16, and then
Be consistent.
wherever else, instead of having it just on the edge. And then, these are all good arguments about, what this sign should look like. But I'm thinking, in the
You have to go
middle
with a column.
would be great. Just
You have
like,
to go with a column.
not so freaking tall as theirs, to me, I don't like that.
Well, then you can
Just
stretch
put-
that
In
one
my,
just that you like.
just food for thought.
Absolutely.
It wouldn't hurt to ask him again, Rick, when we get to that point.
Yeah, when we get, I'm not gonna,
And all them guys, they usually help us out, you know.
I think it's, and I agree with you, I think it's but appropriate for us to get through the design process and figure out what we want, rather than approach TxDOT with a whole bunch of, well, we think we want this, we think we want that. So that's why I think we need to go through this process first before we get in contact with
Okay, but just food for thought.
Just have them make it out of raw steel and it'll rust pretty quick and look real rustic.
Now,
like the
now.
pedestrian bridge.
Exactly.
Rusty.
Rusty.
Yeah. Yeah. A little ferrous oxide in there.
Okay.
Okay, that, since that was not an action item, we came to consensus, and Rick has direction to go to the side company and get some more designs, and we will
Where's them? They're killing
move
us.
on to item 10, discussion of and direction on proactive retail restaurant developer and tenant representative outreach and recruitment services within the city of Helotes as
I want this.
an agreement between the EDC and Nexsite for the same. Now, this is discussion and direction, not action. It's something that has come up, and we just, if we could have a motion to discuss it, that's all we're gonna do tonight,
I so move.
okay?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded by Stevie and Patrick. You wanna kinda, I think everybody, we had, well, I'll let Glenn go through this. He's more familiar with it than I am. He can cover all the details without having to go back over what I missed.
March. I want to say we went out for a request for proposal in March. It's right here. Of this, oh, there you go. Maybe I'll just read the background. So we released it in August, and then we only had one company that submitted a proposal in time, another one turned it in late and inadequate, and neither one really complied with what the request for proposal was. And that was coming up with a base fee structure plus a commission that is structured for actual performance. Some of you may recall the prior retail recruitment company we had, Retail Strategies, was just a flat fee, 15,000, or 25.
30
uh,
35, 30, 25.
25,000
Too
subsequent
much.
years, yeah. Yeah, for, really, they didn't have to bring in any tenant or retail to the city of Helotes. They obviously were out there trying to recruit businesses, but there was really no substance to it. And after going out for the request, none of the other companies that were familiar with were willing to structure it based on performance. Me and the executive director were at a conference up in Las Vegas, the International Council of Shopping Centers. We came across a company called Nexsite, and the founder of this company actually founded Retail Strategies. And he said he left 2 years ago, approximately, to form another company because he didn't like the direction Retail Strategies was going, that it was becoming a little more commercialized and not service-oriented. And so you can kind of thumb through their history and stuff, but let me see what page it's on there. He's got a proposal in here.
First.
It's on the-
You moved it. Yeah, it was page 15. It's at the front. He has two options. So he has the traditional 35,000 a year option, like most everyone else, but he also has option 2, where you pay 15,000 a year and then a success fee. So considering this falls in line with what we were originally looking for, I just wanted to bring it up to the board's attention to see what their general thoughts were. I still think a company like this can be flexible on their, fees. We were able to actually negotiate with Retail Strategies. They were initially 35,000 a year. I got them down to where they were 30 and 25,000 for each subsequent year. The one big distinction I think Nextsite has is they are not just retail focused. They will do office, they will do medical, they will do hotel. He said they go after everything. And they do not have something that we learned toward the end of our contract retail strategies. Nextsite does not have a brokerage arm. So what was not revealed when we signed retail strategies is they do have a brokerage arm. So meaning they can take commissions from deals they land. And that's something that wasn't previously revealed to us, but came to light later. I think that's kind of double dipping,
It is.
just slightly.
Kind of what, Rick and Glenn found these people out in Vegas, I guess, didn't you? At the big conference. And
Yes, sir.
their option or solution to there is pretty much what we were asking for. If we contracted with a company, we paid them a base fee, and then we gave them a commission on what they brought in based on the size and the value of what they bring in. And this looks pretty good. I'm not,
I like to.
Yeah.
if you're talking about a healthcare, like, you're talking about, you've got a multifamily thing there, and if you were looking at anything, about the only thing we'd probably consider on that, we've got a senior living. That has to be approved by P and Z and council. We're not really zoned for anything like that.
We can do senior, we can't do multifamily.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that could be tailored, I'm a little,
Oh,
depending on what that is, I don't know, the $25,000. Those fees need to be spelled out a little better based on the size and type of units they're bringing in if we did it. But I think the whole thing now is are we interested in having them come in and discuss it and make a proposal to us? Then I guess we have to go out with proposals again, don't we?
Not for this type of service.
Okay. Patrick?
Take his pen away.
You want to know if I have any opinions on this? Mm-hmm. What is our goal? So they're going to bring potential business to the city of Helotes. That's their business, correct? Correct. What is our goal? Because I'm looking at solution 2, where it could be the success fee. What do we deem as success? So if they came to us and they put this proposal together, and they give us, right now, we're seeing 2 solutions here. What is our goal? What do we want them to come back with? Because that's the part that I would need to understand first before I put something in front of them and say, here, go get us this business. And how much, based on our city limits, how much can we expand at once?
The way the proposal reads right now is that it doesn't matter, really doesn't matter what your goal is. Anything that would come into the city, whether they did or did not have, whether they did or did not influence that project, they would get paid for.
I see that. I mean, with the 35,000, the 15,000, either way, they're going to get paid, and it's a 3-year minimum. My question is, the service that we're looking to gain from them, what's our goal? What do we want them to come back with? Are they going to come back with just 1, and we're paying them 35,000? Is it going to be 15,000? Well, what's our goal? What are our expectations for procuring a service like this?
Well, I know when we initially sat down with retail strategies, for example, once they did their market analysis, they gave us a list of retailers, that was their only specialty, that they felt were a good match. And then we had the opportunity to say yes and no to certain ones on there if we thought they would be a good match in our community. So that helped guide to the development we're looking for. Like I think Catherine mentioned, we wouldn't want another fried chicken place. You know, if happens Church's is a match, we're gonna say, yeah, do not go after Church's Chicken. As far as a success, I mean, if you choose solution 2, and we're paying $15,000 a year, and then they go out and they land another fast casual, they land a McAllister's Deli, well, then they're gonna get paid $5,000.
I get how it works. My question is, what other options could we sit down and address with them if we had a goal list as to bring 10 companies in, or bring 10 potential businesses in for 2020?
Timeframe is the, I don't know, the unrealistic factor. There's some businesses here that we've worked on for over 7 years before we actually got them to build in Helotes.
And what's our appetite? I mean, how many businesses are we looking to bring in for 2020, 2021? Are our expectations one or two?
It's what we can get. So we're on, I would say on retail development, we're limited on acreage because everybody wants to be
This is why I'm
south.
asking, how
Right.
much land do we have left and what can we put where?
It's getting smaller. We just had another, groundbreaking about a month ago for another retail center behind Walmart, taking up, 2-acre site. Unless we get Dr. Betters on board to actually develop that site. I mean, that's the best big lot we have. That's 14 acres. We've got a couple of small lots, 4 or 7 acres here and there. And then we're trying to push development north, where we have the water and sewer line from Circle A all the way out to Scenic Loop. But that's not necessarily going to be retail. You're going to get office development. You might get some senior housing. I know we've had interest from that sector.
Could end up with residential too.
It could.
And the reason why I'm asking these questions is because of option one and option two. One's 35,000, it looks like it's all inclusive, that means it's unlimited.
In a sense, but no
Versus-
guarantees. You're going to land anything for 35,000.
That's why I'm asking these
Yeah.
questions, because
what we had with-
what's the incentive for them to come to us with a whole bunch of them when I think it would be more incentivated for, or at least in our best interest, to go with solution two, where they're going to get commission based on anything that does finalize or
Right.
comes into
Oh,
town.
absolutely.
More for success. Pay more money for success.
I mean, if we're expecting them to come in with 10, then I would say solution one. If we're expecting 1 or 2, then I'd say solution two.
Based on retail strategies, they brought in 0 in 3 years.
So,
Well,
solution
they say
two-
they helped in 3
But that's a
of the
lie.
cases.
Yeah, right.
But yes.
And I think it also helps them set their expectations too as to what we're
Absolutely.
looking
The
for.
more money they want, the more they'll bring in. I like solution two. I mean, it's,
Right now, I'd say solution two is more,
And I do know that with
They'll
either
promote.
option, if we give them a list of prospects we've already been working with, courting, those, they would not get any commissions from.
right, those would be grandfathered in on
Yes.
our end.
You might even, working on the remuneration schedule down here, or send it on a per-year basis. If they do it within the first 12 months, they get an extra,
15%
5%
or
or
something.
2 years, 10%, some kind of graduation based on the time frame that they bring them in here.
That's not a bad idea.
If I understand it correctly, it's based on
What it is.
based on the business being completed and opening for business.
That's correct.
Well, it started 2 years, whatever.
Well, that's
But
it.
you
If the
just
business
gotta
breaks
say,
ground, it doesn't
Right.
open.
If they bring something in this year, if we sign with them right now, they get something this year, it won't be open till
Right, that's what I'm
later
saying. We
next
can-
year toward the end of the
And we
year.
could put the incentive starting on the second year, or, whatever. Put some kind of incentive to get them in here quicker and with faster success.
You could accelerate the percentages.
Based on dealing with these people, they don't really have any influence on that.
Yeah.
They've got to get the retailer
Right.
or the person that's wanting to put the business in.
But they also might have somebody in their pocket too, that's,
I mean, it's
Everybody
possible.
does.
I know the most recent dealing we've had is with a grocery chain. They're planning 5 years out. I mean, if you have a site that you pitch them now, they're not going to build.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got the next 5 years already under contract.
Now, I am opposed to any consultants, based on what we've seen in the past. And going through this packet, first of all, they're based in Alabama. And then, at the end, they have the representative next site projects, and they're not impressive. But they are all in Alabama, Georgia, one in Tennessee, And they're also asking us in solution 2 for a minimum 3-year agreement. Now, we already did that with Retail Solutions and achieved absolutely nothing.
It's, I mean, and to expound on that, it's actually a 5-year agreement.
Wait,
Because it's actually a 5-year agreement, because it's the first 3 years under contract, plus 24 months after the initial 3-year period. So you would pay the 15,000 for 3 years, but anything that came in the following 2 years would be subject to the success fee.
Gotcha. They're covering any work that they've done.
Does Houston or Dallas use anyone?
Big cities typically don't use these
I mean,
types
well,
of
they're
consult.
out, they're little burgs outside, like Katy.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of small cities that use, smaller cities that use retail strategies.
Buxton.
Buxton.
Catalyst, I mean, there's,
but they've
More than
all
a
got,
dozen.
they've got more land available. We are
True.
so limited at this
And
point.
a lot more money than we have.
But
That's
they're
right.
not using people in Alabama. You know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
to support your comment.
Well, they
that's the
may
only thing I can address. They just hired
Your
a
city
Texas
can do it.
representative, and I want to say it's the Economic Development Director from Athens, Texas, is taking over representation of Texas communities.
Question from the audience.
Bert?
If you're, can you actually go up, because we're videotaping to the mic, please?
In my mind, another thing, I agree with you totally, Stevie, about what you just said. But in my mind too, is we need to see what this legislative session is gonna end up doing to our cities. I don't know if it's gonna affect our EDCs as much, but it's really gonna affect our cities big time. How we're gonna be able to finance things and everything. And until you, in my mind, until you guys decide to go with a consultant again, I think you need to weigh what's gonna happen in Austin. Just my opinion. Okay?
Good.
Okay.
Let me, Bert, I thought the session in Austin just finished and won't be back in
We're
session.
still filtering through everything with our lawyers and everything.
The sessions has ended, but the bills are on the governor's desk, so what is and is not going to be signed is still sort of up in the air.
It's up in the air, and we don't know. We are at a point right now where we could be really handcuffed on how we're gonna serve our citizens. So I would think this, just in my mind, just in my mind, very small mind, just, wait until the legislative process goes out and then make your decision on maybe getting
He has
consulting.
until, I think, September 1st to sign the bill. And those that were approved by the House and the Senate become law, whether he signs them or not. So I don't know what legislation you're
Oh,
talking
unless he
about.
vetoes them.
He-
Yeah, unless he vetoes it. He does have the
But
option to veto.
there's this session is really a big, am I right or wrong? This is really gonna affect us on how we're going to be able to keep our cities moving forward. So,
But you don't know that that affects EDC corporations?
that's what I'm saying. In my mind, I would wait and see how it affects the cities and then maybe make your decisions on consultants.
Good point.
That's just my opinion.
This table.
Affect what we can do with potential businesses coming in, the effect he's talking about, or new businesses.
Just my opinion, so.
I agree.
Thank you for letting me speak.
You bet, Bert.
I think we're kind of agree to be undecided on this one. Just
That's okay.
let it sit for a while, maybe
I
bring it up
agree.
again in a couple of months.
During the budget cycle, maybe,
Yeah, bring it up in that, well, that's gonna be,
September, or,
budget session, we need to start earlier in
August.
September.
yeah.
Probably start it in August, I would think, would you, Rick? Gotta start working on budgets in August,
They have a.
It's probably next month,
July. yeah.
July, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
We wanna have time to go through it and decide what we wanna do, and then we have to pass it, and then the city has to approve it
Yes.
before it can go into effect, and usually we end up running after the fact before we get through doing it.
Well, we'll be on track this year, but.
Okay, good. Write that down. Okay, I guess we're through discussing that, I guess.
I'm done.
All right. Item 11 is staff updates.
Okay, I provided on your dais a printed copy to go over the staff updates. The first 2 pages are modifications to the movie night flyer and then the Independence Day celebration event going on. I will say the city's secured quite a few sponsors this year, so that's really nice. And just found out today we secured 2 more for movie night, so be redoing it again. See, the third page, I have some of the events attended and that have gone on here in Helotes. There was a ribbon cutting for Olive Branch Counseling and Training. They took over the old Curves business. And then we had a 1-year anniversary ribbon cutting for Helotes Cafe and Bakery. As I mentioned earlier, myself and Mr. Schroeder attended the International Council of Shopping Centers Big Recon Conference in Las Vegas back in May. We're able to meet with a lot of the real estate developers for some of the larger companies out there, developers, hoteliers, and so we'll be following up with that. Morning mingle that the Helotes Chamber offers. That's the second Wednesday every month. And then the city and the EDC was also invited to a regional planning session by the San Antonio Economic Development Foundation. They're under relatively new leadership by Jenny Saucedo. I think she's been there about 2 years, if I recall. She's really trying to make some changes, brought in a lot of new staff members. They've never done a regional focus for development. In part of our planning session, most of the smaller suburban cities that were represented said they've never passed along information to the small guys. They've always kept all the good stuff for themselves, and left everyone else with the crumbs kind of deal. So we're trying to kind of break down those barriers and get to where we're hopefully either have them or create another organization, we don't know yet, to represent the region as a whole. And I definitely think that'd be more effective for all of us. There's a lot of other states and communities that are doing this on a regional basis. Makes it a lot easier to target because talent is all around Bexar County. It's not focused in any one particular city, and we've got quite a bit of high-skilled labor here in Helotes that work in San Antonio. The next part is an update on GIS planning. I know our website, we're finally live with the property data feed. Got a couple of properties that aren't showing up that are in Helotes, and then a few that are outside of Helotes that are showing up in our list. So we're trying to go through some of the GIS work on that. We should be getting some demographic stuff live here pretty soon. It is definitely going in the right direction. Following page, I just got this in today. Been working with Manhart Consulting. We've got the city has a 6.7 acre tract of land that's behind the pet barn and the KFC over there, which the developer wants to unload. He has no desire to build out. So I reached out to Manhart and said, look, what can we realistically fit on the site? Because a lot of people are looking at it and they can't figure it out. Shouldn't be that hard. But he can spend a couple hours, throw basic geometric designs down. I'll get the square footage a little bit later, but those are 2-story office complexes that he threw down on there with adequate parking. So we're going to use that as a tool to market the site. We've done it for some other locations and that are currently being developed. It seems to work. It just gets the creative juices flowing. I don't have.
On the 6.7 acres, are those 4 buildings, are they already there, or that's his future development?
That's proposed.
This is what we had Manhart draw to
Conceptual.
show potential buyers.
I
for the property.
got it, okay,
It's just a conceptual thing. He does that for us where we want him to.
got it, thank you.
And he actually threw this one in for me. Proposed, I know I've discussed it before, this is Judicial Services that's locating out off of Monarch and Scenic Loop Road. Reached out to them earlier this week, and there's still no status update on the project. They said they're still moving forward. They're trying to get their plating phase documents all in line so they can submit. She told me if they do run into an obstacle, they'll reach out and let us know. Was going to let everyone know the 4.69 acres at the corner of Scenic Loop and Bandera
Oh, my goodness, that one again?
officially sold back on May 3rd to Nooners. So that's who controls the site. He has not submitted anything to the city at this point. My understanding, talking with the sellers, is that he's trying to figure out what to do with 4.69 acres. That's a lot of land for development. He may decide to subdivide and relist the property or whatnot, but as we get more information, I'll bring it forward.
Wow.
I don't know Nooners, are they a developer or?
Nooners is a gas station
Oh.
and a convenience store.
Okay.
Just like what the Shell station in Kurt Anderson has. They usually have a restaurant or fast food component and everything to it.
But there's a problem with that property, right? They can't build in the back because of the little bugs.
No, that property does not have any issues.
Not talking about Bayless
No?
Miller's property, you're talking about on the
Oh,
other
okay.
side.
There may be a
It-
little bit of the property that's in a floodplain.
It does have quite a bit of floodplain.
Yeah, but that's not an issue for
A
the
little bit
size
of the very
development.
back of the property is in the floodplain.
Right.
Bat cave.
We recently met with Stan Goodson, who owns a, I think it's 1.47 acres, next door to Jupy Mills and in between that and Lotus Christian Church. He's proposing almost 20,000 square feet of total lease space. There's going to be about 18,000 square feet of mixed office or retail use, and then a small 2,000 toward the rear that will be his Apple Pest Control. So we met with his architect and contractor a few weeks ago, and they're trying to get everything in line to push that forward. He wants to get started this year. I do know for sure he has 6,500 square foot LOI on it, and I've got a couple other office users that are interested. Part of it kind of depends on his price point. And he's going to try to keep it under $20 a square foot on a lease rate, which is very competitive for this area. I don't have any update on the approximate 2 acres. It's kind of up on the right-hand side on the hill over by Sean Carlson and Associates. I know he wants to move forward with developing 1 acre for his office. And then there's the 2 acres that's on the market right now for potential office development. Dr. Bitters, as I mentioned, there's various developers we've sent his way. We've tried coordinating meetings. He's been very adamant on his vision that he has for the site on a medical office park, and he's not willing to make any changes. And that's really been the sticking point for all the developers. They don't, and I agree, rightly so, there's not a need for over 100,000 square feet of medical office in Helotes. We need a mixed-use development there. So we'll keep moving forward. Obviously, that's really the prime spot here in Helotes, being at that intersection at Hausman and Bandera, especially with the roadway improvements.
And Glenn, obviously, all of Dr. Bitter's property is not within Helotes. How much is?
You can if you look at the aerial map, you see the corner and it looks like maybe a little L-shaped road right there.
Yep, yes.
If you draw that parallel with Bandera, that's the city limits.
All right.
Only that front portion is in the city limits. Everything in the back is in our ETJ. Now, we have had discussions with Dr. Bitters about if he decided to ever move forward with the development and he was looking at assistance from the EDC or the city, that he would have to request annexation. And the easiest way for us to incentivize that is building, or at least for the city, building permit fee reductions. The EDC could always offer, sales tax or something else, but I think there's a lot of interest from the city and EDC to have that whole property incorporated. The next site is the adjacent corner on Hausman and Bandera Road. That one we can finally reveal is Service First. They currently have the property under contract. It is not closed, my understanding. They have presented to Planning and Zoning and City Council. I know their initial plan was approved with modifications, particularly regarding signage. They wanted a sign over every single bay, it's hard to see in that picture. And I believe both entities felt that that was more marketing and not actual business signage. The dog park. Yeah, they had proposed a small dog park toward Bandera Road frontage. I mean, literally bordering Bandera Road, and the city is, I guess, refused to allow that and to say it needs to be toward the rear of the property for safety reasons. And then we have the site that's currently under development, that's in between Walmart and kind of the Babes Hamburgers. That's approximately 9,300 square feet. The one tenant we're able to reveal is Dunkin' Donuts.
It's about time.
I already have the app.
I will say, I think I've personally worked on that one for 8 years. They've explored Helotes at least 3 other occasions under 2 different franchisees, and every time the deals just fell apart. So this time, we got them.
Goodness, they have good coffee.
And then we have, really the newest business to open is Shots Meat Market. They open across the street at the former Bad Dogs Beer and Bites location. So they're right next by the CVS and Fink's Cigar. And they opened on Saturday. They will be having a grand opening probably in a few weeks. They want to get all the kinks worked out. They've had good sales so far. They've been extremely happy. And then State Farm, our Carlos Miranda agent here, is relocating, I believe it's 3 lease spaces down to a smaller lease space. And then his old space has already been leased by a realtor. So that's good so far. Any questions?
Glenn, what is going on with the emergency room building that closed there? Do we know?
Still nothing. I've reached out to him, have not received a response lately. I know the 2 users that put in LOIs for it never got a response. So it's in a trust, in a medical trust that owns, I'd have to double check, they own property, First Choice and other emergency rooms across the country. And they're out of Alabama. So, if they were local, it would be a little bit, easier, and they'd have a little more understanding. This is part of a huge portfolio. They own over 100 properties in the
Wow.
medical.
It's amazing.
They're writing it off as a tax.
Yeah. There's definitely been interest in that property from the development community, both with using the existing structure and then some tearing the whole thing down and starting over.
It would make a great restaurant, an interesting restaurant, not barbecue, not Mexican.
Not chicken.
Not chicken.
Would you leave the examining tables in the rooms?
Oh, good heavens. No.
Okay, I think we have concluded the business for the evening, and we're getting back to normal. It is 8:20. We are adjourned.